I do realize...
What we're saying is add humans, you coward.
No, don't, please.
Skin humans to gain their power.
Don't do it. To gain the power of what? Not having dark
Anxiety.
vision? You lose dark vision when you wear a human pelt.
When you get a human pelt, you are worried about taxes. You feel inexorably tired.
Yeah, as opposed to, like, if you're an elf and you take this subclass and you wear a human pelt, you, die if you're over the age of 100.
You immediately turn to dust. Hello, travelers. Welcome to the Copper Fox Inn. Pull up a chair. What do we normally say? Pull up a chair, take a seat, join us as we discuss Homebrew for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. I am your out-of-practice host, Thomas the Human Bard. Joining me today is...
Mercy the Tiefling Wizard. I almost said Tiefling the Mercy Wizard. We are Rusty.
This week, it's just the two of us, but we'll still be presenting you guys with some of the interesting homebrews that we've found around on these arcane tomes and scrolls we have in front of us, known as the internet, Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit mostly. With that out of the way, let's get started with our magic item of the week. Bum, 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 bum. Bum. I've brought our magic item this week. I found this on r/D&D Homebrew on Reddit from user u/Blueinix. Blueinix. Picture the word blue. Had a horrible, like, flesh merging with the word phoenix. Blueinix. It's that. So thank you, Bleenix, as we look over your magical item, Mirror of Holding.
That's funny, because in Russian, blini are just, like, crepes. And so I... like Blinix. I'm just picturing like a crepe, a phoenix made out of like crepes.
Made out of pancakes.
Just made out of pancakes.
The Pancake Phoenix. That's our new channel mascot. The Mirror of Holding.
Welcome to the Pancake Phoenix Inn.
Welcome to the...
I'm opening a competing inn.
Welcome to the Bleeny Phoenix Inn. You're opening a competing inn. How dare you?
Across the street.
The owner of this inn will be very mad. An owner I won't name or introduce because I don't want to make that official yet.
We're not ready to canonize.
I don't know if I've canonized that. The Mirror of Holding, a wondrous item, uncommon. This enchanted mirror serves as a magical vault for powerful arcane items. It is able to store any object that can fit within a 5-foot square in front of its reflection. To deposit something into the mirror, the user must hold the object while spending an action to perform a sequence of somatic components.
Okay.
This somatic sequence serves as a cipher and can be taught to others. Once the cipher is completed, the targeted object disappears while its reflection remains and is stored in an extra-dimensional space within the mirror. To retrieve an object from within the mirror, the retriever must pass a dexterity sleight of hand check against the depositor's spell save DC, while holding out a free hand to hold the object in the reflection. If the retriever knows the cipher, they automatically succeed. The mirror's frame is immune to all damage. If the glass, AC 15, sustains any damage, the mirror's enchantment ends, the glass shatters, and the stored object disappears into the astral plane. Goodbye, hope you didn't need it. When the glass breaks, any untethered creatures in a 5-foot sphere around the mirror of medium size or smaller must succeed on a strength or dexterity saving throw, DC 10, or be sucked in and deposited at a random location in the astral plane. Creatures located near the backside of the mirror have advantage on the saving throw. The magic portal is one way and closes immediately afterwards.
That is cool. I like this item. I like the art quite a bit.
The art's very good. The art, we'll have up on screen the artist attribution here. But it's yeah. The mirror is a stock illustration by Yaroslav Gerzelovich, but the knight inside of the mirror is an image called Elite Knight by Dongyong Seo. Man, these names. It's very good art, both of it, but the mirror and the knight are both very good. The Elite Knight is actually a Dark Souls image, which is cool. Yeah, so you know that scene in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone where Harry Potter gets the Sorcerer's Stone?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's that scene. He goes, oh, I have it in the mirror. Oh, I have it in real life. Only maybe the reverse of that, too.
This made me think of the spooky mirror boy in Dragon Prince, also.
Spooky mirror. Oh, yeah. In Netflix's Dragon Prince.
So it's really interesting. One thing that did jump out at me is that, so if you're retrieving an object from the mirror. If you know the sigil, you can just do it. But if you don't know the sigil, you have to pass a sleight of hand check. Because the idea is like, can you do the sigil right? I don't know if that's the mechanic I would choose.
I kind of want it to be a performance check.
Well, I mean, if you don't know it, you don't know it. Like, it's not... I don't know. It's sort of like if you know a password... You either know the password or you don't. It's not like, but I talk real good, so I accidentally say the right one. And that's sort of how it feels to me.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah, so I don't know if I would have it be a dexterity check, because it's like, if you don't know the right movement, it doesn't matter how good you are at moving.
Fair enough.
You're not going to accidentally do the right movement. And maybe the creator of this was just thinking about it in a different way that I'm not getting upon first reading it. But what I initially kind of thought maybe it would be almost like maybe an intelligence check, because that's what lets you see through illusions, and maybe
investigation check.
Yeah, well, maybe it would have to do, or maybe even wisdom. But I was thinking intelligence because that's what lets you see through illusions, of realizing like, of getting kind of in a Matrix way of like, you can bend the spoon if you know you can, where it's like, if you can understand that you can reach into the smear and it isn't the reflection it appears to be, then you can do it.
Well, you don't reach into the mirror, though. What happens is there's a reflection of the room in which the object exists, and you go to where it is in the real room, and then you grab it, and if you've grabbed it correctly, it is now in your hand.
Well, even that I think could be a thing then, where it's like, because as I'm picturing it like a movie scene, right? Like cinematically, you would wander over you'd be looking in the mirror and you'd see the orb on the table behind you, and then you'd
realize it's not on the table.
Don't know the sigil, but you look back and you look at the table behind you, and most people go, "What? That's super weird and freaky." But if you're smart enough about how illusions work, you can mentally like will it to be there. You can break through that illusion. Sure. That just makes, if there's gonna be a check to get it without knowing the sigil, it makes more sense to me for that to be mental and to be the same way that you usually work through illusions than it does for it to be like accidentally doing the right sigil.
Definitely. I think that this works much better as like an interactable dungeon puzzle than an item that like a player carries around with them. Though you could theoretically have maybe like a pocket mirror which does this. You could hide something important in there. But I also thought it was interesting. It's called a mirror of holding, right? And so it immediately made me think of a bag of holding.
Yeah.
And just the entire holding economy in D&D. And I just went like, I wish there were more ways to stash cool stuff. And this is a very interesting, like hide it in another dimension, in a reflection in a mirror, is very magical and feels a little bit more magical than put it in a really...
I have a Mary Poppins bag.
Put it in a really big bag.
This would be one of the coolest, most unique things to be exploring the wizard's castle or be exploring whatever dungeon you're in, and to go into a room and have like someone your player who's good about investigating and looking around and making a point of like looking at everything, or who has a really high perception or investigation or whatever, notices that there's something in the reflection that isn't.
Yeah.
Because if it was small, if you aren't a character who pays attention, like I in real life wouldn't notice if there.
That's true.
I wouldn't. If there was just something on the bathroom counter in the mirror that wasn't there in real life, I don't think I would notice. So if it's just like, wait, guys, there's a book on the table in the mirror. If it's small, like that could be a really cool way of a wizard hiding something and betting most people won't even notice.
We played a game once where you guys looked in the reflection of a crystal, and I described that your reflections within the crystal were yourself but a corpse. And you all went, maybe we don't touch that crystal then, huh?
And then I made my familiar touch it, and it immediately died.
Immediately disappeared,
and I was like,
obviously having been dealt enough damage to be dismissed.
And I was like, I don't know what I expected. I don't know what else was going to happen.
Maybe it was going to be great. It was going to give me a blessing. Yeah. No, I think that like this idea of a plane within the mirror is very cool. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for this idea of a mirror as a portal to like another plane of existence even being used in a game, where maybe a portal is how, or a mirror or a reflection is how you get to like the Feywild or something. I think that'd be really cool.
Very cool.
You have to walk through a reflection in one specific pond to get there.
I love that
like,
idea.
That kind of stuff is really compelling to me for like the flavor of magic that it provides. So that's why I really enjoyed this magic item.
That's I think this is super interesting, and I like that you brought it. Very cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty much great at this. Let's move on to our subclass this week. Mercy, you've brought something.
So I was excited about this as I was looking through all of my many scrolls of homebrews. This jumped out as me as a really interesting, fun idea. Thomas and I really enjoy doing homebrew ourselves, and one thing that Thomas especially has spent a lot of time doing is Rangers, as have many people who like to homebrew.
A lot of things that I've spent time homebrewing is Rangers. I haven't done many Rangers.
All right.
Okay.
I was gonna make like a bard joke.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to make it. We know. But yeah, so I mean, a lot of people who homebrew make their own Rangers because
they're perfect and you should never change them, and we are all rebels. That's why we
That's
like
why.
it. That's the reason.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just actually for people who maybe aren't like as in on the D&D jokes, many people, it's a very common sentiment in the D&D 5e community to not love Rangers as presented, or just to feel like they're not as well balanced or as like cool feeling to play as they could be. So a lot of people make homebrew Rangers. That's a super common thing.
Hence the meme, lol, Ranger bad.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying is like this is a particular Ranger subclass that I thought was really interesting among the many that exist.
Let's look it up. What is it?
So it's the Pelt Collector.
Okay.
It's cool. And one of the things that I really like about it is it is extremely flavorfully tied to the idea of what a ranger is. You know, the person who's like out, the hunter in the woods.
Okay.
I think it's really cool. So I'll read the flavor text here. It's not crazy long, so we can go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So there is an ancient art taught by rare hunters and trackers. It is an art of leatherwork, or skinning and tanning a creature soon after death, so that its abilities can be passed on to the leather. The secrets of this trade are well kept, but the determined hunter can find them by proving themselves to a teacher or by finding one of their pieces and studying its construction.
Okay.
Yeah. So the spell list for them is at 3rd level Bane, 5th level Alter Self, 9th level Feign Death, 13th level Polymorph, and 17th level Hold Monster. Okay.
Sure.
Alter Self specifically makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
With the flavor of this. So Skin the Essence. When you join this conclave, you learn the secrets of the Pelt Collectors. You gain the ability to skin a creature with such care and magical skill that you preserve their vital essence in the pelt you craft. When you wear this pelt, you gain the powers of the creature from which it came. You can spend an hour skinning a small or larger dead creature with a it has to be dead.
I was going to bring that up, so I'm glad that it addressed it.
I am glad that that's in there. With a challenge rating of 1/4 or lower. The creature cannot have been dead for more than 24 hours, so it can't be like decomposed.
Sure.
And you must be within 5 feet of the dead creature for the duration of the hour.
Stay nearby.
Yeah, like if
you can't grab it and run.
I mean, if you're spending an hour skinning it, that's pretty self-explanatory. You can't be like, I'm skinning it from over here. Because it does specifically say you spend an hour skinning it.
Sure.
So, yeah. But there it is. The dead creature can be an aberration, beast, dragon, fiend, or monstrosity. So it's not limited to animals.
I'm glad that humanoid isn't one of the options.
Yes.
That would be a very different class.
That is well worth mentioning. So it comes up a lot in D&D with different abilities where it's often limited to beasts, so just animals basically.
Yeah.
And if so, this is basically saying any kind of creature except humanoids.
Almost, but yeah.
Just about. It's
not fae,
but
not,
you can,
not undead.
Right, but you can, because often it's like you can also do monsters, but you can't.
And it's hard to skin a skeleton.
Well, and things like fae or undead, those like are people a lot of the time. So it's like monsters and animals, not people, is the flavor I think they're going for.
Sure, I getcha.
You know what I mean?
I getcha.
Well, fiend.
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah. Yeah, but we get what they're going
we get
for.
it. Also, I do realize...
What we're saying is add humans, you coward.
No, don't, please.
Skin humans to gain their power.
Don't do it. To gain the power of what? Not having dark
Anxiety.
vision? You lose dark vision when you wear a human pelt.
When you get a human pelt, you are worried about taxes. You feel inexorably tired.
Yeah, as opposed to, like, if you're an elf and you take this subclass and you wear a human pelt, you die if you're over the age of 100.
You immediately turn to dust.
it's just worse. And you have to go to sleep desperately.
But also, it depends on the individual human. So it's like you skinned Chad, and he's like a real dick. So it's
That's
like,
great.
oh, great. Now I love Monster energy drinks.
Oh, man. I did also realize, so at first I was like, well, that's redundant, that it says you spend an hour skinning a small or larger dead creature. And it is still technically redundant, but I can see it mattering that they then say you must be within 5 feet of the dead creature, just for table rulings where a DM would otherwise maybe go, all right, well, you're skinning this like bird. It's not going to take you an hour, but it's like, oh, but it does.
It has
like
to.
you, even if I do, I then have to stay by the animal and meditate or whatever.
Essentially,
for
I
the rest of the
capture
hour.
its soul in the
Yeah.
pellet or whatever.
So
Sure.
I think that is worth reiterating, even though it might not be technically necessary.
Yeah.
I get why they did it. So no shade.
Yeah, let's move on to the next part.
At the end of the hour, you gain a mystic pelt. You can don the pelt as an action over any armor or clothing you currently wear. While donned, you can perform any actions listed in the creature's game statistics other than the multi-attack action.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. If an action allows you to make a weapon attack, you can use your dexterity or strength for the attack and damage rolls of the weapon attack. You can wear only one mystic pelt at a time.
Oh. CR of 1/4 or
Yeah. So there are limits
Never
on.
mind.
Yeah, that's if that wasn't in there, this
Good
would
catch.
be OP.
Every once in a while, you find a creator who knew you would point that out.
Oh, yeah.
And they went, aha, you see, I've planned for this.
Well, the next paragraph is the challenge rating of creatures you can skin increases when you reach certain levels in this class.
Now we're talking.
Increasing to 1/2 at 7th level, 1 at 11th level, and 2 at 15th level. And we will talk more about the balancing of that in a bit, so I want to read through the rest of it here.
I don't think there's that much to say about it, really. I think that's fine for just generalities.
Yeah, but in the comments, the creator went more into their thought process, which
Okay,
I think
sure.
there's some worth bringing up there. So, borrowed strength at 7th level, you can perform the multi-attack action.
I have to sneeze, sorry.
Uh-huh.
Nope, it went away. Just kidding.
At 7th level, you can perform the multi-attack action if one of your mystic pelts provides you with a multi-attack action.
Mhm.
So previously, that was the only thing you couldn't do. Now you can
No.
attack multiple times if the creature can.
Scary.
But it's like fighters can do that. Like, that's not insane.
I know.
You know?
But rangers normally can't.
Yeah, well, but
That's the
Rangers
whole point.
normally aren't good.
Are ripping the skin off of humans and eating it. That's what this does, right? I've never really been paying attention.
That's what it says. Additionally, weapon attacks you make with your mystic pelt actions count as magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. That's similar to druids when they're in beast shape or wild shape. Wild shape.
Fair enough.
One with your prey. By 11th level, you learn to unlock an aspect of the creatures you skin by meditating over their pelts. When you finish a long rest while wearing one of your pelts, you can give yourself one trait of the creature from which the pelt came, such as pack tactics, rampage, or two-headed?
No.
I didn't catch that one when I read this before. The trait lasts until you finish another long rest, so it's not like these permanently stack, or you doff the mystic pelt. So
Yeah, but you can have it active the whole time.
yeah, but the two-headed is pretty crazy.
I mean, there's a lot of abilities that are very broken. That
Yeah.
I don't know if you could find a creature within these very specific parameters with it, but if you had something like, let's say, magical resistance, if you found a creature within this challenge rating of one of these types that has magical resistance and you skin that boy from 11th level on, you've got magical resistance every day, my dude.
Well, and I mean, it is still worth noting that even at this point, there are still limits to the challenge rating.
Yeah, no,
So,
there are.
yeah.
I'm saying you'd have to have it within that, but if there is one, game over.
And the creator talked about that a lot. So just the final thing, natural defense. While wearing a mystic pelt, you gain all resistances and immunities of the creature from which the pelt came.
Is that also an 11th level
That's
ability?
also the 11th level.
Okay. Yeah,
but
that's
it
listed
should
in the thing. Yeah,
say
cool.
that. It should at the
Gotcha.
beginning of it, even if it's repeated, just for people's information when you're making your own homebrews, just for formatting.
Yeah.
All right. So that is the idea.
The Skin Boy.
And I think it's really cool.
That it is cool. It is sort of part of that thing where I'm so removed from wilderness survival in my modern life that the thought of skinning an animal grosses me out to like a very deep degree. But I understand there are people that still do that. Oh, like there are people in modern like life who go hunting and skin, and that's very normal to them. They're like, yeah, my dad taught me to skin a deer when I was a kid, and that's cool. But personally, it just grosses me out. So I don't want to put a skin on. That's
the
gross.
idea of stabbing someone is a little cringy for me too, but I do that in D&D all the time, you know?
See, I have no moral problems with stabbing anyone that I want to.
Or with skinning humanoids.
Yeah, or eating the skin of humans to gain their power.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I'm saying an animal.
Only an animal.
Yeah.
He's like, how dare this say beasts? That's disgusting. It should
Remove
only be
beasts,
humanoids.
Add humanoid, you coward.
So in the comments on this, I never credited, I'm sorry. So this is from r/unearthed arcana on Reddit from user Tabaxi Taxidermist. So in the comments, there is a lot of good discussion. If you want to follow the link in the description, you can check it out, about balancing this and especially comparing it to moon druids, who are the druids that can wild shape and turn into animals. Which is the most obvious parallel.
Yeah, it's similar in some ways, but not.
It's taking on traits.
Yeah, you don't gain any hit points of that creature.
Yeah.
Or you don't gain their physical stats, but you do gain certain attacks or traits that the creature has. So yeah.
Yeah, and the creator has responded to a lot of the comments, and they seem very cool and like they're great at having discussion. So check it out, pitch in, and they talk a lot about. They go through like, well, what you say, like at this level, you can
use challenge rating of
like challenge rating 1/4 abilities, and so they go through like, well, what are those? So 1/4 challenge rating creatures abilities include teleport from Blink Dog, and
Stink Cloud from Dretches.
Yeah, and like poison from giant snakes and spiders. So there are
good
abilities, like they're pretty strong. And so they go through like, oh, is this going to be OP? But they go through and they compare it to moon druids because there's been a little bit of like friendly debate in there about, well, should they be getting the access to the same level of creatures as moon druids at the same time?
Yeah,
because
moon druids are always limited to beasts.
Right.
Not just like aberrations and stuff, you know?
And so they've been going through in the comments, and I think it's well worth looking at if this interests you. I had a good time reading through it. There's just some good debate in there if you want to follow up about, well, what are the pros and cons? So it's like moon druids get a hit point buff.
Yeah.
Whereas these hunters don't. These rangers don't get a hit point buff from doing this. However, these rangers can wear armor, and druids like
don't really wear armor.
Like I mean, they can wear like light armor or whatever.
Yeah.
But
when they wild shape, they're not wearing armor.
So moon druids can switch abilities mid combat. They can turn into a different animal. Whereas, I mean, maybe you've got another pelt in your bag that you could.
Yeah. Did it ever limit how many you can have at once?
You can wear one at once,
yeah,
but it didn't say you could
once,
only have.
So can you not just like take one off?
I guess you could. It takes an action, whereas druids can shapeshift as a bonus action. So that is a big difference. Druids only need to have seen the creature, whereas these people have to have killed and skinned the creature.
And having to have seen the creature is a variant rule.
Yeah.
But it is a widely accepted variant rule.
But that is a lot less hard than having to have defeated the creature in combat or found one freshly dead.
Yeah.
Which is...
It is, but also since the challenge ratings are so low, not really. Like a lot of these are
That's true. You would be able to kill a creature at that time.
You can defeat that. Like that's not... These aren't... Though it includes dragon for some reason, maybe for something I'm not thinking of. Dragons aren't going to be in this.
That's true. You're not going to be killing a fully grown adult silver dragon. Druids have access to all of the traits of whatever form they take without exception, whereas there are some limitations in this subclass.
You don't get the multi-attack till later and all that kind of stuff.
And druids get extra HP in wild shape, because if they drop to 0 HP in wild shape, they just start back at their max HP when they revert.
HP buff.
Yeah,
sure.
Whereas you don't get this here. However, this subclass gives you a much wider pool of creature types, and you always have access to the actions, whereas druids don't. And you can be casting spells or doing other things while having access to the multi-attack or to whatever other attributes you're getting advantage from. And you can't be knocked out of your skin, whereas a druid can like take a big hit and then have wasted their wild shape and turn back into a human.
Could an enemy pull the skin off of you?
It doesn't say they can't.
Like an attempt to kind of disarm you.
I mean, I don't see why they couldn't. That would probably be an athletics contest.
Something like that.
Yeah.
To pull it off, yank it off you.
But whereas it's just written into it where it's like, if you just...
Can the skins be destroyed by means like fire and such, like a wizard's spell book?
It doesn't say they couldn't, so the yes would be the default. So there are pros and cons, and so there's a lot of debate in there of like, are they better or worse than moon druids? Therefore, should they have access to higher, lower, or equal challenge ratings at the same levels?
Fair enough, yeah. No, that's really interesting.
And I think the creator Tabaxi Taxidermist has a lot of good stuff to say, so check it out.
Does that imply that they taxidermize tabaxis, or that they are a tabaxi who is a taxidermist?
Well, it's essentially the same, because if they are a taxidermist who has taxidermized tabaxi and wears their pelts, they now have access to all the tabaxi abilities through this subclass. Tabaxidermist.
Yeah. Thank you. I was purposefully not saying
Thomas said tabaxidermist before we started, and I thought it deserved to be here.
It was my first immediate response upon hearing those two words, because a portmanteau is the lazy man's humor. So it's mostly my humor, 90% of mine.
One thing that I think is very cool about this Ranger subclass is I'm a big fan of Ranger subclasses that feel heightened and a little magical, but not through just like giving them a bunch of wizardly or spellcasty things. And they do still have a spell list, because Rangers just have access to certain spells.
But it feels more separate than just saying you get some wizard spells.
Yeah, it feels like their abilities are just tied to their deep connection they have with nature, and nature just happens to be magic because it's full of monsters and magical creatures.
Their deep connection to killing nature. Yeah. And wearing its skin as a coat.
Because you don't own a leather jacket.
Yeah, exactly. If you did this ability to Garfield, would you gain his love for lasagna or his hatred of Mondays, or both?
When I'm wearing my leather jacket, do I gain the ability to eat grass? Do I taste delicious? I taste delicious. You gain the ability of cows to taste wonderful.
Yes, correct. When grilled.
Yeah.
We'll have to try this out later. Unnamed owner of the tavern, fire up the grill. We're gonna get a leather jacket out here.
Mercy burgers.
Mercy's gonna take one for the team.
This episode has taken a weird turn.
Oh yeah. This is what happens when it's just me and you.
Yeah.
We're not balanced by
We don't have Onog to scowl at us and be like, what are you doing?
It allows us to go mad with power. Thanks so much for listening, travelers. We hope you enjoyed these homebrews that we've shared with you today. We'll be bringing out another couple of homebrews in an upcoming episode in the future, where Mercy will be bringing the magic item, and I'll be bringing something that I found recently, which I think is very interesting and also very dumb. So there's that to look forward to. And with that said, if you have a homebrew that you've made or that you've seen that you'd like us to discuss on the show, send it to us at our email, thecopperfoxinn@gmail.com, or on Twitter at thecopperfoxinn. We're also on Instagram if you want to check that out. And,
Yep.
I think they should add humanoids to the list. Keep on adventuring. We'll see you next time.